There was once a place within the kingdom ruled by Duke Rubelite. He had an eldest daughter named Reina Rubelite, who was cursed. Reina wielded powerful black magic, and the terrified people of the mansion imprisoned her underground. However, their efforts were futile due to her magic. So, they devised a new plan, to move Reina to the secluded mansion of the Abyss, located north-northwest of Ice Perry Village. There, Reina began a new life in this remote mansion, and many new experiences unfolded for her. This is just a short introduction to our amazing recap. If you want to know more, watch until the end of the video. In a room filled with the roar of thunder and lashing rain, a young boy cries and shouts hysterically, "I keep hearing it." The voice. "The monster underground is going to kill me." His parents stand by, their faces etched with fear and worry. Now, let's shift to the Duchy of Rubelite, within the Grace Empire, a nation blessed by the gods. When Duke Rubelite's son, born to his second wife, began suffering from auditory hallucinations, the Duke couldn't help but recall a troubling incident from 10 years prior. Hearing his son mention the voice from underground, the Duke instantly thought of one person, his cursed eldest daughter, Reina Rubelite. Strong and formidable, with black wings emanating a dark aura, she could wield sinister black magic at the tender age of 8. The illegitimate child of the Rubelite family, she scorched everything she touched. Imprisoned 10 years ago in a desolate underground chamber, devoid of any human contact or objects, Reina had been utterly deprived. Now, the Duke, consumed by nervousness and panic, knows he must keep this information a secret at all costs. He bellows an order, "Bring Reina here immediately." Servants descend into the dark, torchlight illuminating a young woman with white hair. Fear grips them as they witness a powerful black magic aura burning around her body. The Duke commands, "Take her to the carriage at once." Just looking at her makes me want to avert my gaze. Undeterred, Reina walks slowly towards the Duke. In the Grace Empire, an ancient prophecy whispers of a furious demon king who will engulf the world in darkness, ushering in his reign. The Duke is convinced this is her, the harbinger of the prophecy. The steward and maids tremble in terror. So the prophecy was true all along, one mutters. A maid, overcome with fear, throws a small statue at Reina, who effortlessly dodges it. The tension is palpable. Suddenly, Reina's eyes fall upon a shining object. The Duke tenses, certain it's the end. This is it, he thinks, just as the prophecy foretold, we're all doomed. Unexpectedly, Reina starts pointing at various objects in the room, a chandelier, a beautiful painting, a plant vase, claiming them all as her possessions. Night falls as Reina amasses a vast collection, a sword, a treasure chest, a large bag, and more, piled high on the carriage. The trembling stewards confirm everything has been loaded. Reina fixes the Duke with a serious stare and approaches him. The closer she gets, the more his fear intensifies, causing him to collapse to the ground. He begs for his life. With a flick of her wrist, Reina extinguishes the bindings on her body with her dark magic. Her ruby eyes pierce him as she bows down, a chilling smile playing on her lips. "Consider this recompense for my childhood," she declares. She steps out of the mansion and enters the carriage. The remaining people, still shaken, are left wondering if it's truly over. The mother whispers, "Is she really letting us go?" The Duke, unsure if even a lifetime of suffering would satisfy her bloodlust, croaks out, "Will she kill us all?" Just as the carriage is about to depart, Reina calls out, "Stop." She lifts the curtain, peering back at them. A bone-chilling crack echoes as she stretches her neck. Actually, she requests, "Could someone bring me a pillow? I think my neck will get sore if I keep doing this." They hesitantly comply. As the sun rises, the carriage disappears into the distance, taking Reina with it. Finally, the people of the mansion allow themselves to breathe freely. The Duke can only utter a desperate plea in his mind, "Reina, please, disappear from this world quietly." Inside the carriage, Reina sleeps soundly, snoring comfortably into her pillow, the stolen statue clutched in her hand. Despite slumber, a faint black magic aura still flickers around her. The driver nervously gripped the reins, his hands trembling. He recalled the Duke's promise, "You'll be handsomely rewarded if you deliver her safely." A glance towards the carriage sent shivers down his spine. A powerful aura of dark magic emanated from it, making him tremble even more. What in the world is going on here, he thought frantically. Could it be the prophesied Demon King? Suddenly, the carriage window shattered. A hand emerged, causing the driver to scream in terror. The sound echoed through the forest, startling the horses, which whinnied and stomped. The driver collapsed to the ground, frothing at the mouth. Reina stepped out of the carriage, guilt gnawing at her. "I messed up again," she muttered, looking back at the broken window. "I just wanted to tap lightly to talk to him, but this." She sighed, gazing at the dark magic swirling around her. "Even after a month, I still can't control these powers properly." Focusing intently, Reina tried to suppress the dark aura. As a character in this game world, Reina Rubelite was known for wielding immense dark magic, ultimately being defeated by the power of love. The story revolved around a blonde girl, a red-headed boy, and the final boss, Reina, who was thwarted by this very trope. "It wasn't even any powerful magic," Reina scoffed. "Just the power of love." The concept disgusted her. How could she have fallen victim to such a ridiculous plot device? Or perhaps, how did she become such a pathetic character? Reina's thoughts drifted to a small, ramshackle house, a place teeming with a poor family and their many children. She was the sickly youngest daughter, her frail body a constant burden. Money for proper treatment was a luxury they couldn't afford, and even if they could, there was no guarantee it would work. Her condition only worsened, fueling a deep resentment within her. In a way, Reina almost welcomed her inevitable end. Though a flicker of loneliness lingered, the prospect of oblivion offered a strange comfort. In that empty room, she would finally disappear, her suffering a distant memory. It was a bleak acceptance, but for her, in those final moments, it was enough. Now she stood in front of a huge and powerful being. It was a shining, luminous entity. Surprise and speechlessness gripped Reina. She wondered if this was the afterlife. The high being spoke to her about her final words. "Are you happy about dying a lonely death?" it asked. Pity welled up within the high being for Reina. She just stood there, staring. Instinctively, she could feel it, this being guided the dead. Pitiful, Reina thought about the high being's comment. It sure likes to say strange things. If that's the case, it should have given me a healthy body in the first place. Or maybe it should have had me born into a rich family where I wouldn't have to worry about hospital bills. With a sad expression, she finally asked, "So what's going to happen to me?" Will I go to hell for always cursing you? Anger flared within her. It really was a horrible life, all the way to the very end, she thought bitterly. The high being replied, "No, you will be reborn once more." Surprise and confusion washed over her. "Reborn?" she echoed, staring intently at the being. The high being seemed to sweat under her gaze, nervously mentioning, "In that case, how about being reborn in your desired form? I shall grant it, no matter what conditions you give." Hope flickered within Reina. She thought of someone whose very presence inspired love in others, someone cherished and protected. One person came to mind, though a little eccentric. This person was admirable, didn't demand compensation, and possessed incredible abilities. They were destined to save the world. Reina contemplated becoming this girl. Determination filled her eyes as she looked back at the high being. "Since it's my choice, I can become anyone, right?" The high being agreed. "That's right." A tinge of sadness crept onto Reina's face. "The person I want to be is..." The high being awaited her answer. "Before I died," Reina began, "I wanted to be reborn as a character in a game called, In This World, with the Power of Love. The character's name is..." She faltered, forgetting. What was it again? Frustration washed over her. She didn't know the name because the player chose it at the beginning. Scrambling to explain, she continued, "In that game, the level 999 Mastermind Demon King is Reina Rubelite." The high being replied, "Understood." To Reina's surprise, a magical circle of swirling smoke engulfed her. Panic seized her. There was something she needed to say. She actually wanted to be reborn as the hero in the game, the one Reina Rubelite bullied from beginning to end. She yearned to become a hero who overcame adversity, all the while receiving love and support. But the magic overwhelmed her, rendering her speechless. The high being, unaware of her true desire, agreed to her initial request. "I have heard all of your wishes," it intoned. "I pray that you attain happiness in your new life." With that, she was lifted into the air and vanished in an instant. In the darkness, the sound of thunder and rain echoed. Stone walls formed the corners, and metal bars secured the window. The gate, too, was reinforced with metal. It was unmistakably a cell. Reina, a woman with white hair, sat on the cold, hard ground, still confused by her situation. A couple of rats scurried nearby. "I'm finished," she thought aloud, despair creeping in. "This is completely wrong. Please, just give me one more chance." She looked around nervously, a rustle from a cockroach making her jump and scramble towards the wall. Fear contorted her face. "Since I've gotten myself into this situation," she thought, "I need a plan." That last thunderclap sounded like it could swallow the world. If the game plot holds true, Reina should be able to escape soon. Once free, the world will be plunged into darkness, and a girl will appear to confront her. But I already have a plan for my journey. Though, she added with defiance, I don't intend to let the game dictate my fate. I'll make my own fortune and live a life far beyond the reach of the game story. However, I feel sorry for the original owner of Reina's body. The previous owner was trapped in a deep, dark underground place, surrounded by only rats and insects. She wasn't loved by her own family. The new owner, on the other hand, arrived just in time to escape that dreadful place and start a new life. Unlike the original owner, she has the chance to avoid negative experiences that might alter her perspective on life. However, even though she escapes the harsh life of the original owner, the future remains uncertain. The new owner may face different challenges, gaining both positive and negative experiences. I'm excited to see how her journey unfolds and what the future holds. Reina stood glaring at the unconscious driver. His predicament posed a problem for her. She began shouting, trying to wake him. The driver stirred, groaning with a headache. As he opened his eyes, he saw Reina's unsettlingly cheerful smile. "Good, you're finally awake. How are you feeling?" she chirped. This terrified the driver even more, making him tremble uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry for causing you trouble," he whimpered. Reina, realizing her mistake, quickly clarified, "No, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just glad you're all right. I was worried." The driver seemed to grasp her intended meaning. "I apologize for making someone like you worry about me," he stammered. Reina, now growing irritated, ordered him to stop apologizing and get the carriage moving. The driver nervously returned to his seat, taking the reins. Reina, bored with the wait, asked, "Hey, when are we getting there?" The driver, surprised, replied in a trembling voice, "We'll be arriving at the teleportation stone soon, please be patient a little longer." Reina, upon hearing this, thought, only royalty and the very wealthy use teleportation stones. Just how eager are they to get rid of me? I guess it can't be helped, considering I'm the Demon King destined to destroy the world. But even so, she thought, glancing out the window, I'm still your daughter, you know. The carriage reached the base of a towering castle. 2 guards stood outside, checking a document. It's a request from His Excellency, the Duke of Rubelite, one announced, granting them permission to enter. Reina gazed out at the sight before her. So, that's a teleportation stone. It's even more impressive in person. It feels like I've actually entered the game world. A guard holding a wand muttered an incantation. A bright light engulfed the carriage, momentarily startling Reina. To her even greater shock, she emerged into a completely different landscape. Leafless trees stood bare against a backdrop of snow. Without hesitating, Reina flung open the door and stepped out, barefoot on the frozen ground. The driver followed suit, both of them gazing upon a magnificent castle rising before them. This can't possibly be the place, can it? Reina questioned. The driver hurriedly scanned the document provided by the Duke. The Mansion of the Abyss, northwest of Ice Perry Village, in the Winter Snow Duchy, he confirmed. Reina's anger flared. The Winter Snow Duchy lay north of the Empire. Upon founding the Empire, the Emperor granted the first Duke the chaotic and unruly northern territories. The duchy's responsibility was to defend the Empire, utilizing abilities passed down through their family lineage for over 1,000 years. However, the Demon King resented this power and cursed the ducal family, unleashing monsters across the north. The chaos resulted in the deaths of the previous Duke and Duchess. Yet, their legacy lived on in their eldest son, Rostian, who had survived. Inside a large, pristine chamber, someone spoke of a 1,000-year-old prophecy. It foretold the Demon King's ambition to conquer the north, with the ducal family as the first target. This speaker appeared to be a priest, expressing regret for his inability to prevent the Demon King's curse. He knelt before the Duke, pleading, just as your family has always done, please continue to protect the North." The Duke contemplated the ruler of darkness who sought to shroud the world in malice. This entity remained unseen, unheard, and shrouded in mystery. However, doubt about the high priest's prophecy had never entered his mind. He knelt before the 2 stone monuments marking the graves of his parents. This new character is Rostian, the eldest son of a powerful duke. He survived the Demon King's curse, but his parents tragically vanished from the world. Now, driven by a duty to protect the North and fueled by a desire for vengeance, Rostian seeks out the Demon King to make them pay for what they did to his family. Reina, on the other hand, possesses the Demon King's dark magic. Given Rostian's negative history with the Demon King, their meeting promises to be a tense one. Will they clash, or will fate have something else in store for them? Inside the mansion, Rostian sat engrossed in paperwork. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed, "Your Excellency." It was an announcement regarding a prophecy coming to light. Demons were expected to descend from the abyssal mansion, far to the northwest. Rostian rose from his chair, his expression grim. "Here it comes again," he muttered. "Are the preparations complete?" His assistant replied confidently, "Everything is set, Your Grace." The entire force awaits in the barracks, ready for immediate deployment. A fully armored soldier stood outside, clutching a spear. Rostian issued an order, his voice firm. "Let's not waste any time. We march on the abyssal mansion this time. We will annihilate every demon, leaving no trace of their presence." Now, back to Reina at the abyssal mansion. Infuriated, she yelled, "This place truly lives up to its name. Are you trying to freeze me to death?" In a burst of anger, Reina unleashed a dark magic flame. The sight of the dark magic caused the driver to faint. Startled, Reina instantly concealed her power, flustered. "Oh no, mister. You fainted again. I didn't realize my power tends to go wild when I'm angry." She carried the driver to the mansion door and attempted to open it. "What the? Why won't it open?" She noticed the entire door and mansion were encased in ice. Consumed by cold, hunger, and anger, Reina's dark magic began to melt the ice. Seeing this, she remembered how she controlled her power back in the castle, even managing to make a ball of dark magic after crying over cockroaches and mice. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind, "Demon Lord, command the darkness surrounding you." Shocked, Reina cried out, "Who's talking?" Focusing her mind, she successfully created another dark magic ball. Elated by this accomplishment, she decided to use it to unfreeze the entire mansion. The mansion is now enveloped in a large, dark magic flame conjured by Reina's power. However, maintaining this type of skill requires a vast amount of mana and precise control to prevent burning down the surrounding forest and the mansion itself. Reina, pleased with the result, entered with the still sleeping driver. Gazing at him, she considered surrounding the mansion with a small flame to maintain warmth. Then, she began exploring. Spotting a bathroom, she took a moment to wash up and relax. After her bath, she entered a room filled with a large cabinet overflowing with beautiful dresses. Delighted, she thought, "There are plenty of dresses here." While the styles might be a bit outdated, reminiscent of an old noblewoman, Reina donned the red clothes and discovered a matching red jewelry set, a necklace and earrings, that perfectly complemented her dress. With her flowing silver hair, she felt a surge of satisfaction. "I finally ditched that beggar look," she exclaimed. Just then, a trembling voice called out like a nervous puppy, "My lady, are you here?" "Mr. Coachman," Reina replied, "come in." The driver entered with a request that surprised Reina. He desperately wanted to return home to his family. Reina understood his reason, but she also knew Duke Rubelite wouldn't let him return alive. In the game, the Duke had eliminated all servants who witnessed Reina's power, including the coachman. Even if he somehow survived the harsh northern climate, he would surely face the Duke's wrath upon returning home. Determined to ensure his safety, Reina said, "Unfortunately, you can't go back home. Your life is likely already in jeopardy. Your family is probably..." She trailed off, not wanting to say dead. With a heavy heart, she replied, "I'm sorry, but you can't return home." To demonstrate her power and persuade him to stay, she produced a dark magic aura. The terrified driver witnessed her display. Reina explained, "I can't manage this vast mansion alone. You'll need to take care of me until someone arrives. Don't worry, I'll pay you generously." Using dark magic, Reina severed a gold hand from a large golden statue and presented it to the driver. His eyes widened as he recognized it as belonging to the Duke. Trembling, he picked it up, overwhelmed with the reward. Reina, unsure if this was enough, added, "There's plenty of food in the pantry on the first floor. Help yourself." She then turned to explore another part of the mansion. The driver, overcome with gratitude, began to cry while clutching the golden hand. "I was just trying to survive," he thought, "but she actually hired me. She's my master now." Stepping outside, Reina spotted a white creature moving in the snow. Initially mistaking it for a snowball, she realized it was alive. "Is that a rabbit?" she wondered. Inside the rain-battered mansion, the Duke paced nervously. His thoughts were consumed by Reina, the fear gnawing at him intensifying with each passing moment. He envisioned her succumbing to the Demon King's power, slowly transforming into a true Demon King herself. This terrifying vision filled him with dread. If she became a powerful being, she could unleash her power across the world, destroying lands and people. The mere possibility of this future sent shivers down his spine. Even if the Saintess intervened and saved the world, the Rubelite family wouldn't escape the ensuing destruction. That was simply unacceptable. Determined to prevent such a catastrophe, the Duke rose abruptly from his chair. "Has Reina arrived at the Abyssal Mansion?" he demanded, his voice laced with nervous anger. The butler, his expression mirroring the Duke's anxiety, stammered, "Yes, Your Grace, she should have arrived by now." The Duke's face twisted in a grimace. "Then we must act swiftly," he declared. "Before she succumbs to a berserker rage, we must eliminate her. I will not allow her to endanger my family or the world." Panic flickered in his eyes, a stark contrast to his usual stoicism. It was unclear whether he was making a calculated decision or simply driven by overwhelming fear, ***.
Now let's get back to Reina. She was trembling with excitement because of the cute white rabbit. But this white rabbit was not friendly. However, that small, cute growl only made Reina even happier. She was already imagining having a monster with that level of over-cuteness. For her, it felt like a good dream. The idea of becoming the Demon King didn't seem that bad anymore. While she was still dreaming, a serious voice came from behind her. "What are you doing here?" Reina turned around and looked back. It was a tall, handsome man with a sword. She was speechless when she saw him, but that changed immediately when the man told her to leave the mansion at once, saying the area was not safe and full of monsters. Reina became mad and threw those same words right back at him, saying that he was the one who barged into someone else's yard and was now telling the owner to leave. Reina had finally managed to get her own house, and now someone was already ordering her to leave. Then, a knight arrived and heard those exact words. As Reina continued to speak, the man remained silent. He could feel the oppressive feeling around her. He agreed to leave for now, explaining that he had only come to hunt monsters, but they would come back later. As the man walked away, distance by distance, he couldn't help but notice the place. The area was covered by thick snow, and a snowstorm was raging. Yet in the spot where the mansion stood, there wasn't a single flake of snow. Not even a trace of the storm touched that spot. Inside the mansion, Reina was stressed. She had just arrived at this place, but she was already being ordered to leave. She had planned everything out to gain economic freedom and live a peaceful, retired middle-aged life in this mansion. So she absolutely could not leave. Later, a piece of paper arrived. It had a stamp, and it stated that the mansion belonged to Duke Roston Wintersnow of the Northern Duchy. Due to many years of unpaid taxes, the ownership had been transferred. The knight kindly but firmly ordered Reina to leave the mansion immediately. This news left Reina with her mouth open in shock. She hadn't even lasted a day in this place, and now she was already being told to leave. She had nothing else. This mansion was her only hope. Now, the Duke had heard the report that Rihanna still had not left the mansion. The knight reported that she was the princess of the Rubelite ducal family, and now everything seemed to become clear. The moment he learned of her identity, things started to make more sense. Now, the Duke appeared confident. He believed it was only a matter of time before the princess left that house on her own. Once a few monsters came down from the mountains or nearby areas, she would surely become frightened and decide to run away without anyone needing to force her. However, to make sure she remained safe until that moment came, the Duke gave a strict order. He commanded the knights to guard the surroundings of the mansion carefully, ensuring that Rihanna wouldn't get hurt before she finally decided to leave. Now, it was already nighttime. The sky was dark, and the Duke had finished all of his work for the day. He returned to his room, and in that quiet space was the cute monster from earlier, whose name was Luca. The Duke looked at Luca with a worried expression, his thoughts heavy. With monsters appearing more frequently than ever, it now seemed that the day the Demon King would appear was not far off. The signs were becoming too clear to ignore. The Duke was sure of one thing. He would eliminate the Demon King himself. He had made that decision. And when he did, he would lift the curse that had been placed on Luca. Luca was now sleeping peacefully, but not in his monster form. He had changed. He was now sleeping as a handsome and cute child, his blue hair soft and glowing under the faint light. Now, let's go back to Rihanna's mansion. At first, it was a messy mansion. However, the entire house was warmed with a thin layer of magic, and thanks to the coachman who had cleaned all over the mansion, it now looked livable. But the real problem was the ownership of this mansion had already been transferred to the Duke of the North. It was said that there were no fresh vegetables and fruits in the goods warehouse. After realizing that, Rihanna decided to step outside to explore the area. That was when she found herself visiting the marketplace, where people were busy buying food, clothes, and many other things. While she was talking, one old woman informed her that Rihanna shouldn't expect fresh vegetables or fruits in the north. In the past, it had been warm enough to grow various crops and plants, but now, due to the constant blizzards, it had become impossible to grow anything. Now, Rihanna felt disappointment building up inside her because everyone she spoke with kept saying the same thing. They all talked about how the blizzards and the monsters were brought by the devil. But Rihanna hadn't done anything. She just wanted to live peacefully and have a happy life. Now, back at the mansion of the old man, a man came and informed him that the prophecy was deviating. But the old man tried to deny what the man was talking about. However, the man standing before him was very handsome, so it was hard to ignore him. With his golden hair and a smile like that of an idol, he confidently stated that the Demon King should have appeared around this time, and right here in the east. That statement made the old man suddenly go pale with nervous shock, because deep down, he already knew something about it. The handsome man continued to speak and said, "Looks like the problems have arisen due to my lack of virtues as the high priest." Hearing those words, the old man became even more nervous. He couldn't even speak properly and started making excuses, saying, "That's not it? There must be another cause. Wouldn't it be possible for the Demon King to appear in the north? Or the south? Or maybe even the west?" At that moment, a butler appeared and made a report that the Duke Winters now of the north had arrived and said he needed to speak with the old man about the food issues and the young lady. This news shocked the old man because he didn't have the power to decline the Duke's invitation. Later on, the Duke, the minister, and the old man were sitting on the sofa. Without any hesitation or careful choice of words, the Duke directly informed them that the food shortage in the north was very serious, and that was why he had come to ask the old man for food support. The old man stayed completely silent. Then, the minister stated that the food shortage in the north was everyone's concern. The eastern region had many grain-producing areas, so it would be good to support them. The old man couldn't help but agree with that statement. Afterward, the Duke spoke to the minister and the priest, turning the conversation toward the northern blizzards. He said, "The residents are having a hard time. For the sake of the residents, I think we should stop it." The priest replied, "When I think of the residents, I feel very sorry for them. But the Duke's younger brother could be in danger. It would be hard to maintain his body without the blizzard." At that moment, the Duke remembered his brother, or rather, Luca. While he was lost in thought, the priest, in a firm tone, asked about the next topic, the young lady. The Duke remembered it, but the old man's face turned even more nervous. His face was completely covered in sweat. Now, let's return to the city of snow, where people were busy living their daily lives. Amidst their usual routine, good news arrived, news that brought light to the cold, harsh north. The Duke had returned with food supplies. The atmosphere quickly shifted as hope spread. The people were genuinely happy because the Duke would distribute one portion at a time to ensure that every family and individual received enough to bring home. Each household, one by one, accepted the food with grateful hearts. Everyone smiled, everyone except for one woman. As soon as she checked her share, she found that the bag was mixed with soil and gravel. The mood changed. People around her heard her complaint. However, their displeasure wasn't about what was inside the food bags, but rather about what the woman had said in front of the Duke. They spoke up and reminded her that the food they received was exactly what had been given to the Duke by the East. It was not his fault. So instead of getting upset or making accusations, they believed she should be thankful that food had even arrived in the first place. But for Veronica, it was different. She couldn't accept it anymore. Her eyes, filled with frustration, made it clear she couldn't live like this any longer. With a heavy heart, she turned and started walking away from the area, quietly but firmly. She had made up her mind. Maybe it was time to leave the north behind. Rihanna, who had been nearby, overheard the people murmuring that Veronica was once used to harvesting and eating only the highest quality crops. That kind of past made it even more understandable why this situation was more painful for her than for the others. The village people, although frustrated themselves, could still feel sympathy for her. They understood that someone like Veronica must be even more heartbroken than they were. Hearing this, Rihanna suddenly rushed to follow Veronica. Something inside her told her she needed to talk to the woman, maybe to understand, maybe to comfort, or maybe to just listen. The Duke, standing quietly at a distance, noticed everything. He watched the scene unfold. As he stood there, his thoughts drifted back to the words once spoken to him by the Eastern Duke. "I don't think she's my daughter. Whether she starves to death or freezes to death in the north has nothing to do with our Rubelite family. I hope Duke Winters now will also be careful. Rihanna's behavior is very shallow. She was a vicious woman." That was what her own father had said about her. Cold, heartless words spoken without a hint of care. What a truly proud and noble father he was, to say something like that about his own daughter. He hadn't even cared whether she lived or died. He had discarded her without regret. And now, Duke Winters now could only remain silent, watching Rihanna chase after someone who, just like her, had once lived in warmth and now walked through snow. Now, Rihanna caught up with Veronica, and when Veronica heard footsteps, she turned around. As soon as she saw Rihanna's appearance, those dark purple eyes, the silver hair with a red tinge, and the noble dress that radiated luxury, she immediately recognized her. Veronica was familiar with Rihanna, who was known throughout the town as the crazy lady who had moved into the Abyss Mansion. Without wasting any time, Rihanna went straight to the point. She asked if it was true that Veronica could grow high-quality crops. Veronica was shocked at first, caught off guard by the sudden question, but eventually, she nodded and confirmed it. She had indeed worked hard to grow crops, even in this barren and frozen northern land. She had joined forces with the villagers, and together they had managed to grow grain that turned out well. Veronica had been happy to share what they had cultivated, but now it was all over. As long as this blizzard continued, the people of this town wouldn't be able to grow anything. The constant snow and freezing temperatures made it impossible. Veronica was angry, furious at the devil who, according to legend, brought the snowstorm. Her voice trembled with emotion as she said that if that devil appeared before her, she would rush in and fight them without hesitation. Hearing this, Rihanna stood silent and stunned. She was speechless because the devil that people blamed, the one said to have brought the storm, was her. She was the Demon King. Still, she managed to gather herself and asked Veronica something. No matter how much they tried, the snowstorm never stopped. But what if they tried something else? Would it be possible to grow crops if they built a greenhouse? Veronica was surprised by the suggestion. A greenhouse? It could work. But there was a problem. How would they maintain the temperature inside? There wasn't even enough firewood to heat the houses properly, let alone a large greenhouse. That's when Rihanna told her firmly that she would be the one to solve that issue. She said she had the power to make it work. She had already done it in her mansion. She had used her magic to warm the entire house despite the freezing blizzards outside. Now, let's go back to the Duke and the people. The food rationing was over, and the Duke was thankful to everyone who had helped with the distribution. Then, he turned to his next task, Rihanna. He wanted to know where she had gone. After learning of her location, he decided to go there himself. He wanted to give her a warning about the dangers around the mansion. But when he arrived, he witnessed something shocking. Veronica was lying on the ground, her body trembling and fear filling her eyes. And there stood Rihanna. From the Duke's and the Knight's point of view, the scene was completely different from what had really happened. Rihanna tried to explain the situation, to speak up and tell them the truth. But before she could finish, the Duke interrupted her with a cold and stern voice. "Lady Rihanna Rubelite," he said, "I'll take you home. Back to the Abyss Mansion, which you'll soon be driven out of." That was not good news for Rihanna. Not at all. Now, in the thick snow and inside the carriage where the Duke and Rihanna were sitting, the conversation continued. The Duke once again urged Rihanna to leave the mansion as soon as possible. She had heard this countless times, even in her past life. It felt like a strange case of déjà vu. But this time, she couldn't just accept it so easily, because she had just found a home she could finally call her own. It was a place she could actually buy and live in peacefully. Rihanna responded, saying that she would buy back the ownership of the mansion. However, the Duke firmly stated that he would not sell it. Despite his words, Rihanna knew very well that he was short on money, and that gave her a sliver of hope. Then the Duke spoke again, explaining that this mansion was a place where monsters appeared during the blizzard. It was not a suitable residence for a noble lady like her, and he believed she should not be living there. Rihanna grew more and more upset. The Duke was treating her as if she were someone who knew nothing about the world. What he didn't know, however, was that she was the devil herself. But of course, she couldn't say that out loud. Instead, she smiled calmly and replied that the Saintess would appear and save the world. She said that she believed in the Saintess and her prophecy. The Duke then replied that he did not believe in saints or anything of the sort. This unexpected answer surprised Rihanna. But from the Duke's point of view, the devil had not yet appeared, but its power was already being felt across the north. As for the Saintess, she only existed in the old prophecies. There was no guarantee she would actually appear. He couldn't rely on mere superstition when it came to the safety and survival of the North. Rihanna started to think more carefully about this kind of character. She couldn't even remember exactly what he was like in the original game. Back then, he had been a character with no real presence, someone easy to overlook. Yet now, she could see clearly. He was someone who had been struggling so hard, all alone in the freezing North. What a sense of duty, Duke Winters now, she muttered under her breath. But the Duke heard her words and spoke firmly, saying that he hoped Rihanna would stop bullying the people in his town. He had no tolerance for nobles who behaved as they pleased, trampling over others. He didn't even want to witness such actions anymore. This left Rihanna in shock. She hadn't bullied Veronica at all. That earlier scene was a complete and unfortunate misunderstanding. Suddenly, the carriage came to a sudden, forceful stop. Someone had jumped onto the roof of the carriage. The knight outside was visibly shocked by this, but it wasn't just a single attacker. A group had already surrounded the carriage from the front, the back, and the sides. It was a clear ambush, and it was definitely not a good situation for the Duke or anyone inside. Oddly enough, the attackers didn't seem to be interested in treasure or goods. Their target was Rihanna. With her distinct silver hair and red eyes, she stood out. They wanted her specifically, and if the knight and Duke were willing to hand her over, the attackers promised they would let the others leave peacefully. I don't know where this bad man got the power to block the carriage. They didn't know the power Rihanna holds, but that was really funny. Now the battle began between the bandits and the knights, but the knights couldn't handle the fight alone. That was when the Duke stepped out of the carriage and, with a single swift strike, sent one of the bandits flying through the air. Upon seeing this, the bandits were shocked to realize that the Duke of the North was actually inside the carriage. The Duke himself felt something was off about the situation. Too many mercenary groups had gathered with the sole purpose of targeting the lady of the mansion, Rihanna. He questioned what kind of person would go to such lengths, hiring this many people just to go after one noble woman. The mercenaries, now in a state of panic, realized this wasn't what they signed up for. None of them had been told that the Duke would be there. This information had not been included in the contract, and his presence completely changed the situation. The Duke, maintaining a calm but firm tone, gave a stern warning to all of them to drop their weapons and surrender immediately. He promised that if they followed his orders, he would make sure their punishment would be swift and painless. Although many of them were clearly frightened by his presence and words, the situation shifted again when a voice suddenly shouted from behind. It was a mage, already in the middle of casting a spell. He ordered the others to focus on guarding the Duke, while he would personally deal with Rihanna. Slowly, he formed several ice swords, each glowing with magical energy. Then, with full force, he hurled them toward the carriage. The knights were too busy engaged in combat to intervene or protect the target from the incoming attack. However, for Rihanna, the attack was meaningless. With just a single gaze, she released a powerful aura from within the carriage. The blast of energy instantly melted all of the ice swords midair. But that wasn't all. It extended outward, burning the weapons and clothes of the mercenaries and the mage who cast the spell. Despite the destructive force of the aura, it did not harm the Duke or the knights at all. Only the enemies were affected by the blast. Now she stepped outside the carriage and immediately brought the conversation back to the earlier incident. How the Duke made it appear as though she had been tormenting Veronica. Addressing the misunderstanding directly, Rihanna explained that she had only been demonstrating some of the magic she was capable of using. Everyone around her fell silent, stunned by the revelation that Rihanna could wield such strong black magic. It was the kind of power that closely resembled the legendary abilities of the Demon King, something no ordinary person should possess. Despite the tension, Rihanna remained focused on clearing up the misunderstanding regarding Veronica. That was her only goal. However, the Duke wasn't convinced so easily. With a serious expression, he raised his sword toward her, demanding a convincing explanation. Why was she using such ominous, dangerous black magic in the first place? Meanwhile, back in town, Veronica was still visibly shaken by what she had witnessed. Rihanna's magic had left a deep impression on her. But now something had changed. Veronica seemed to have realized what she needed to do. Without hesitation, she began running straight toward the Abyssal Mansion, the place where Rihanna now lived. And that's all for today, guys. If you like this, please drop a comment below and support the channel. Thank you, and see you in the next one.